Hi guys, and welcome to another edition of the Kevin Moore Show. Now on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Jimmy Church. Now, Jimmy is the host of Coast to Coast and Fade to Black. I don't need to really give him an introduction here because most of you will know who he is. If you want to find out more information, it's in the link below in the video description. Now, this interview was not going to get released. It was going to be used for multiple documentaries. One of them is my channeling documentary, which it will probably still be used for. While I was editing this for the channeling documentary, I just thought, my God, this is such useful information when we talk about discernment and where we're up to as a community right now that I need to release this. So one of the things that I talk about in this interview as well is my next documentary, which at the time I was thinking of doing, because this is back in June. I'm almost September now. I'm back in the US right now, and I wasn't too sure what I was going to do about my latest documentary, which was going to be Captain Mark Richards. Well, I didn't know it was going to be a documentary at the time, not until I got back to the US, back to the UK, sorry. So now I'm back here. This is my next documentary, which I'm announcing now, and I'll put a link in the description below just to show you guys the interview that I did with his wife back in 2013. If you want to watch that, if you want to get a bit of an idea what this documentary is going to be about. I just think right now we're going through such a change in discernment. There's such transparency coming to the surface right now. I will say this before you watch this interview, that, you know, the goings on at Gaia TV that they've been accused of recently with Luciferian actions is, to me, the worst thing that anyone could accuse anyone of, in a sense, because I went to go see Gaia a few weeks ago. Now, I wasn't working there for many, months or years, but the people that I met were just beautiful people. And, they told me a different story to what's out there in the public. So, there's always two sides to a story. And that's the issue with our community right now. We interview people and we just get them to tell our stories. But where's the journalistic value in that when you're not looking at all angles sometimes? I always say to people, right, when it comes to discernment with the spiritual stuff, how much is that information coming from love? How much is that enlightening and helping people? And if it is, I'm all for it. If it's not becoming like a life coach to people and empowering them, the information that's coming across, nowadays I would walk away from it. I've become a lot more discerning over the past few months since I left America in June and since I came across the Mark Richards story. So enjoy my interview with Jimmy Church, and I hope it helps you as much as it did me at the time. Well, Jimmy Church, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Brother, it's a pleasure to have you here. Now, my first question to you, while I've got you right now, is, now, I think there was a lot of spirituality, or there was at least a lot of looking into the occult, maybe, and things like Edgar, Cayce and esoterica in your childhood. Could you just, tell us a little bit about your upbringing?
I'm watching cartoons, I'm watching television, and I'm seeing Chariots of the Gods movie trailers on TV and the Nazca lines. And so I would freeze, because now I'm into astronauts, I'm into the Apollo, I'm in the space program. This is 60s, this is 70s, this is what was going on, right? And so I'm fascinated with this. And I would wait for the commercial to come back on TV. I would wait. Oh, here it is, the Chariots of the Gods commercial. Then I would see these full-page ads. My mom comes in and gives me the book, Chariots of the Gods. I read it. I'm probably at this point 8 or 9 years old. I'm starting to figure things out and UFOs, and I'm starting to really get into what's going on into space and these questions and photographs, and Blue Book was there, and Hynek, and my best friend John at the time, same age, same fascinations with everything, and we're sharing all of these materials. All of that wouldn't have happened without my mom, and I look back and think about it. It was such a magical time to introduce you at a very young age that the world is not what it seems. There's something else going on out there, and it charted my path throughout life. I'm talking to my mom about all of this, and she was proud. and she's bringing her friends over, whatever, bingo night, and bringing her friends over. She's now at this point she's 80, and I don't think she cared about any of it. I think she cared about seeing her son on TV or on the radio. She's proud of that, because I asked her, I said, "Mom, you want to do the show with me?" What did I talk about? I said, you and Aunt Z and the Ouija boards and the automatic writing and Edgar Cayce. She goes, I was young. I was in my 20s. That was another lifetime. I don't know if there's a whole lot that I really want to talk about. And I think a big part of it, we spoke about this, is she really got into religion later on in life, and she really got into going to church every night of the week, and Sundays and Saturdays and study and things. And it started to conflict with not only her past, but what she believes now, today, and her friends, and so bringing her friends over from Bible study to watch her son talk about UFOs and things on TV, I don't think her friends would have understood it, and she lived her lifestyle today. And I said to her, I said, Mom, that's crazy. How can you say to me today that that was in the past? And she just kind of laughed about it, And so for me to have such, you never know what's going to make an impact on you from somebody in your past. And then later on in life, 20, 30 years later, you hook up with a friend and he says, yeah, I believe that then, but I don't believe it now. And you're like, dude, you changed my life.
What's that say about the soul? It can choose to go either way, can't it? It's a free will to either open itself up to these ideas that we're more than our body, or to kind of restrict itself as well. It's hard to work out, isn't it? Why, if you found this truth, I think for some people it must be very difficult to really, because I think the Bible or any religious text, there's just one book, one truth. That must be so much easier to cope with than having to come up with your own truth. Being told what the truth is less responsible than to take responsibility and come up with your own understanding, because it's a minefield. It really is.
And because everything is connected, it doesn't matter. The universe is the universe. Math has played its way out to bring us to where we are today. And when I say math, atoms separate and join, and all these things happen, and gravity, and here we are speaking to each other now in this room. What got us here? So you have that part, the science side of it. And then when we bring in things like the soul and religion and truth and free will, is free will really free will, or is it going to play out in a mathematical sense, just like everything else in the universe with gravity? And you think you're making a decision, but that decision is just part of math that was going to play out anyway, right? So there's that part. And then when you get to the religious side of things, the reason why I don't talk about religion that much on the air, certainly I study it just like everybody else. We have to. It's part of our lives. Everybody on this planet, one way. You're an atheist, religion is affecting your life. Right? So it doesn't matter how that is. But the reason why I don't discuss it that much is it immediately causes dissension amongst the troops. It causes this polarization. It's this divide and conquer thing. And so I try to stay off of it. But what I do is discuss the conspiracy of religion. It's an amazing thing. So going back to this situation when I was 21, right? Cosmic Dust. I'm reading this book, and this is part of the journey, is finding your answers for yourself. So I'm reading this book, and this book says, I'm going to paraphrase, this book says, the Bible was rewritten. They took the 10 Commandments, they took one out, threw it out, took another commandment, divided it into two, and they still have 10 commandments, but this one commandment was, and I was like, that can't be right. Can't change the Bible. So I get a couple of different Bibles, right? 2 or 3. I collect, and I go to the 10 commandments, and sure enough, I got 3 different 10 commandments here. And the one that they said was thrown out, it's in this Bible, I see it. And in this one, it's not there. There are 2, and I go to this other one, and the commandments were even shifted a bit more. And I thought, wait a minute. Can't change the Bible. Who is making this decision here? And I'm looking at 3 different versions of what should have been a Catholic Bible. Who's making the decisions back there? Now, it has nothing to do with anything about religious beliefs. What it said to me was this book that I'm reading that stated it guided me to go and find this out for myself. I see it now as fact. What the religious decisions were in the Vatican or whoever did this or whoever's rewriting the Bible, that has nothing to do with me being shown the world isn't what it seems. And to say, your point, there's only one Bible. Well, no, right? There should only be one. Everybody's interpretations and these modern revisions of it are guiding people's beliefs, and because they have this emotional connection to religion, and they don't realize, and if you go back and to the earliest versions of the Bible, shouldn't that be what everybody is basing everything on? But it's not. And that's where I back up and go, you know what? I need to question everything.
Yeah, and I think, from only my truth, that, all prophets were channelers. They were all bringing this greater part of themselves through.
100%.
And then, others get involved and doctor it, and it becomes a control mechanism.
All of it is a control mechanism. I was just talking about this last night on Fade to Black. I think over the weekend, or maybe it was last week on Coast, I touched upon this too. Again, I'm always tiptoeing through this. I don't want to offend people. I want them to think, but I certainly don't want to offend. But it's this. Every situation throughout history, going back millennia, and you can go back to Egypt and ancient Sumer, predating the Bible by 3,300 years, where there is a channeling, today we call it channeling, but there's a communication with something that was going on. Now, what do you do with that? If you come back, and I'm saying 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, whether it's with Moses or Muhammad at 700 AD, right? Or going back to Egypt and so forth. If I am the leader of a village, right? And our thing is to survive every day. We need to have children and we need to eat. That's our day. Our day is to survive the night and wake up the next day and start it all over again, right? We need to preserve this. We need to, right? We need to keep this in order. And if I come back to my village and say, hey, I was just talking to a couple of ETs from Zeta Reticuli, and they just showed me how to domesticate wheat. So I'm going to tell you, what are you talking about? They have no concept. But if I come back to the village and say, hey, I was just talking to God, and God says we should do this here, they're cool with that, right? God says that we shouldn't kill. Oh, okay, all right, I'm cool with that. If I come back and say, E.T. just showed me how to make fire, right? You can't. So how do you maintain that control? You don't want people to lose their minds. If you just base it on God and God said and God spoke, then we can have control and we can have, what's the word? Order. peace, happiness.
So you think in the ancient times, I mean, put channeling to one side, you would say maybe in the ancient times that there was lots of interaction with other species from other parts of the galaxy, but those in charge, as they still do now, would have covered it up to say this is God speaking to whoever they spoke to.
The reason why that's the best way, because none of us know for sure, but the reason why it's the best way to look at it is because it's the easiest. It's like Occam's razor. It's the simplest way to answer all of these questions. When you have every culture on this planet, whether it was Asia, South America, Africa, certainly the Middle East, Europe, over North America, you have all of these cultures saying the same thing. We got this information from the stars. Somebody said this to somebody. Now, today we can call it channeling. We can call it ET contact, but all of these cultures have spoken about this over and over again. Who were they speaking to? Before I go the religious aspect or anything else, I think it's a pretty simple thing to think that it could be something off planet.
So if I was to say to you, what is channeling to you? How would you answer that as a talk show host that's interviewed a lot of channelers as well?
What channeling is to me is the universe over forever. Forever. That's a long time. Okay, we're not talking about 1 billion years. I'm talking about forever. The universe has developed a way to communicate. It has the not only different civilizations, but it could be electronic, powerful beings that are just nothing more than maybe energy, right? And so because you have this locality, non-locality, quantum interaction, parallel worlds, multi-universe, things that science today is proving, that the universe has to have developed a way to communicate. We're part of this universe. Earth is part of this universe. And the waves of information that could be flying around us right now in this room, we don't necessarily have a way to tap into it, but others have. Accidentally, maybe by intention, but I think that's exactly because it has to have developed that way. And another way to look at it is this. You, Kevin, a version of you or me in 10,000 years on this planet, are we really going to have this? Are we going to have bodies? Or are ourselves, our consciousness, our souls, going to be represented in a different way? Could it be just quite simply energy? Now, so when we talk about time travel, or we talk about light beings, interdimensional situations, things that are going on out there in the universe, if that was sitting in front of us right now, how would you communicate? There's no voice, there's no mouth, there's no physicality to it. How would you communicate? Well, first off, you don't know. Second, could you communicate in a way that is relative to you sitting here right now? No. Could you understand what their life was about? What makes them do their things? What is, do they paint? Do they write music? Do they play guitar? Do they vacation at Alpha Centauri? We don't know these things. Do they dance? Do they eat? We don't know. How do they live? You could not relate to anything that being would have to say. Now, what would that being, us, I'm talking about us, not I'm talking about earthlings in 10,000 years, not something from another planet or another galaxy. What would that message be back to us? That message would be something that we could understand. Love your brother. Take care of this planet. Don't be mean. These are the messages, right? That we can understand. Everything else, what their daily agenda is, we just could not relate to it. No more than you could, if you were communicating back to somebody 200 or 300 years ago, go back to 1700, where your daily existence is digitally recording, living on the internet, driving in a car, riding on a jet plane, flying around, and talk. They wouldn't even understand that. They couldn't wrap their head around it.
But do you think those that are channeling groups or ascended masters or whatever it might be they channel, not just the ET channels, but the others as well?
Sure, the Council of Light.
Yeah. Do you think they're communicating with something that's out of time? Because if all past and future lives are happening now, then they're obviously able to connect to something they're more tuned into, or they're open to, or they're genetically able to. There's something different about these people genetically, maybe, that they're able to. They're like an open vessel.
Right. Something in their DNA. Also, our brains are made of metal, right? Is there something that just they bump their head and something shifted, and now they're tuned into a frequency and are able to access this? What I do find interesting is when I talk to channelers that don't know each other, different parts of the country or the world, some that have been doing it for a while, some that have been doing it for a week, some that knew nothing about channeling at all, suddenly these messages are coming through, and that the tonality, the content, the verbiage is very, very similar. So let's think about this for a second. Something that was really advanced, the Council of Light, right? Something really advanced. They would try to communicate with us from a thesaurus or a dictionary that they feel we would understand. You know what I mean? They are trying to figure out the communication back to us, just like we are with them.
But do you think it's not just our progression? Do you think they're progressing as well?
The channelers?
The entities coming through?
That's a great question. And I've talked about this. That's a really great question. And I think more of this community should be talking about that. I've talked about the age of the universe being forever, right? Multiverses. Our universe, right? It's not flat. That's our galaxy. That's the Milky Way. Our universe is round. And it's here. But outside of our universe is another one, and another one, and another one. And if you back out of this view, you would look at what are a bunch of stars. But those stars are universes. Inside of those are galaxies, and inside of those are planets and stars, right? Okay. But whoever is pulling the trigger and starting these universes, starting these big bangs, that universal intelligence, and you can call it the one, you can call it the source, whatever you want to call it, forever they have been getting smarter. They have been evolving. All of it. And can you imagine once you go past the tipping point of being able to access all of the knowledge in the universe, that how much smarter you're getting by the second. So are they? Absolutely. Do they have a message? Every single second of the day, they are advancing with their knowledge and their concern.
What if there was a more advanced side that we've not seen of the channeling, what about channelers under channel speaking to another channel? And what conversation comes from that? And I've filmed some of that stuff.
Right, that's interesting.
And it's fascinating that they talk about that we've forgotten about them, in a sense, that this is about them as much as it is about us. There's other groups out there that have gone into the unknown, that are trying to, that are on a journey of discovering new truths for themselves. Most of the channels that I came across, some are a lot are unaware of the other channels. They live in their own unknown part of the unknown.
That's exactly what I'm referring to. And what I have found with channelers that are independent, right? And I listen to them, and then I listen to other channels. I'm thinking to myself, there are a couple of words here that that are being used, specific things, that there is no way that they know that this stuff is being spoken by somebody else at the same time. There is something, that's that fact-finding mission that I'm talking to you about all the time. When I see that, that's when I step back and go, there's something going on.
When I started to channel, and I thought I was losing the plot, I thought I was having a Neil Donald Walsh moment, and I did. I'd lost everything. Everything was gone, and partner, the house, money, the lot, and what came through was interesting. That it talked about it was my job, if I so wish for it, which was agreed before a time beyond time. That it was going to be my job to bring channelers together. Now, this was many years ago, and I thought, well, a load of rubbish, right? I just want to say these things. But then having filmed 70 plus channelers, it did kind of come true in a way, and I didn't force it down that road. I never set out to meet 70 channelers, right?
Right.
But when, it's a natural thing. If you're going to spend 190 days on the road, you're going to be obsessed by it. Like, well, okay, maybe that will happen. So I don't sit here to say I understand it, right? Or that I'm not in charge, because of course I'm in charge, right? I've got free will. This is my choosing as well. But I do believe that I'm working with some sort of group whose mission it was to do this. So, where do you take that? What good is that? I don't know. But I think one thing it's taught me as well is how helpful is the information. There's I could go through 6 criteria, but I won't right now. But one of them is, how useful is the information? Is it practically helping people, or is it just fluff? Or is it for some people?
Okay.
Is it for some people? Is the fluff a doorway to open them to explore? It could be.
We have 7.5 billion people on this planet. Half of them live in a life of poverty that is so unbelievable. Here in the United States, you don't experience it. You need to go to a third world country and see children in a trash dump, looking for food so they can survive the day. That half of the world has no idea what channeling is, right? They have no idea these concepts that we're talking about. Their very existence is just trying to survive the day. The other half of the world that is connected on the internet lives in existence of a serious 2D, 3D existence where the majority of them are just trying to pay the bills. That's it. They just need to go to work, health insurance, feed the kids, get up the next day and do it again. Then there's another layer above that, and it starts to get smaller and smaller, that are interested in politics and religion, in conspiracy theory, UFOs, everything that is just beyond that 7 billion that I'm talking about. Now let's go to this channeling information. What is more important here is that 7.5 billion people that I'm talking about. The majority of that 7.5 billion aren't really concerned with life after death. They're not wondering about the stars up there. They are not. They have different concerns. But if science today, with quantum theory and quantum mechanics and locality, non-locality, prove, which they are now proving, that there is a parallel world, that there is something else out there that is completely unbelievable, that is completely paradigm shifting, that is not supposed to exist. Now, the entire world, if this continues down its path, and suddenly the belief system is, yeah, we're here, but there's another version of you sitting right here. Wait a minute. Now, channeling is real. Now, ET is real. Now, time travel is real. Now, ghosts are real. Everything is connected. And if we can, through channeling, now, this entire concept based off of science and Silicon Valley and what they're working on right now suddenly turns around and validates channeling, now we have to sit back and take all of this very, very serious.
That's perfect for the documentary. Thank you so much. One thing I'll just say here as well is that through interviewing 71, the biggest theme that's come up in all of this, what the documentary is now going to be about, I only realized a few days ago, is the multidimensional reality. We are continuously shifting, not the body, but our consciousness to other versions of ourselves, so that the law of attraction, they say, is really about, yes, you can have anything you want, really, and you will continuously shift to different realities that may be just a little bit different until you end up somewhere near the reality that you want.
That's right.
And it's not instantaneous.
No.
It's not overnight. Sometimes you're blanked out from even remembering the shift of some of the differences that are now here present now.
Right. Yes. Okay. The first time somebody hears about manifesting your own reality, changing your own reality, and the first time you hear about this, you are assuming that they are claiming that one day you are a printer in a print shop, and the next day living in a one-bedroom apartment, and the next day you wake up and you are a movie star living in Beverly Hills. Right. That is crazy talk, and that is not what we're talking about. What is absolutely 100% true is changing your reality, changing it, manifesting it. The universe has a real strange way of making things happen. The key is reacting to it, understanding it, seeing it when it happens, and then making your play after that. Because after, the biggest point is this: it doesn't happen overnight. But if you're not happy with yourself right now, you haven't found your bliss today, and you know what's going to make you tick, you know what's going to make you happy, well, get to it. How do you get to it? And whether it's changing your friends and changing negativity but in 6 months, you look back and you go, I can't believe I was that person. I can't believe that was my reality, that was my world, because today I'm here and I've literally changed my own reality. So much you see, although there's nothing wrong with this, but somebody that spends 30 years at one company and retires and checks out, right? Were they happy for that 30 years, right? But today, if you just stop and focus, you could be a car salesman today, and you can be that fantastic painter and author and book writer or whatever it is, a researcher in 6 months. All you have to do is manifest it.
Can we all channel, do you think? Do you think we all channel all the time?
I do. I look at the different channelers that I have interviewed and have gotten to know about their past lives and what they did and who they are right now. They didn't know, right? And it's just the best evidence out there. I think everybody can channel. You need to recognize it. I do want to learn. I'm talking to all of the names that we know and love, and they've all said that they would love to sit down with me and show me how to do this, and I want to find out. I really do. And part of the reason is we all need to remain skeptical with everything. I am convinced that the world is not what it seems, but I don't need convincing there. But we need to remain skeptical. So when it comes to things like channeling, telepathy, remote viewing is a big part of this too as well. With all of this, if you learn to do it, then you can answer those questions for yourself. Right? Okay, this is not only real, but this is something that I can benefit from, and I think that I'm very interested in it. There's a few zones I won't go into. I don't want to be regressed. I'm not interested in that. No. I've had my experiences, And I don't, I don't want to, if there was, I'll give you an example. 1995, 1996, in my condo here, Sherman Oaks. And I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I think there's a burglar. And I'm living alone. And I know that there's something that has woken me up. There's somebody in my house. And I flip out. And I'm ready to kick ass and take names. Okay? I can't move. And my head is propped up. I'm just I'm just like this in bed. I'm lying on my back. My head is propped up, and I can see the sliding glass door in my bedroom that goes out to the patio. It's open. The door's not open, but the screen is, so there's light coming in, moonlight. I can see everything in my room. And I look, and there's somebody standing right there, right in the corner of my room, looking at me. And I'm thinking I'm being robbed, that somebody snuck in, came in off of the patio, and went through the house and was maybe leaving, but I caught whoever it was. And they're looking at me. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of that, but we have a blinking contest. It's, it's blinking and it's looking at me, and I could see everything physically. I see what's going on. It lasts for about 15 minutes. And I was then able to move. I think I moved my toes. I was like, okay, I'm good to go here. I'm good to go. I'm going to beat this thing up. That's what's going through my mind. And I jump, and I turn on my lamp. And I turn, and he's gone. And I run through the house, and I'm thinking, how did he get by? The sliding glass door is closed. He's got to be in the house. So I go through, and I'm turning on the bathrooms, the other bedrooms, the hallway lights, and I make my way into the living room, and I'm turning on everything, and the house is empty. The doors are locked. And I turn on the TVs. I'm really freaked out. I turn on the TVs for noise. I needed some noise. And I go back into the bedroom, and I sit down, and I'm thinking, what was that about? Now let's fast forward to today. I didn't share that experience with anybody for 10 years. It's crazy talk. I don't need people to hear this. Kept it to myself. I have since told the story many times, but I've also become friends with and interviewed with many regression therapists and hypnotherapists that I respect a lot. I really do. They all want to regress to that moment. They all want to know. I don't. I don't want to know. I don't want to know what happened. I don't want to know if there was anything physical. I don't want to know what this thing was doing in my condo. I don't want to know if it was in my face, breathing my breath. I don't want to know anything. I don't want to know if I was taken away in a ship. I don't know. I don't.
But what's your take on regression? What do you think of regression? And there's some out there that do progression as well.
Right. I have great respect for it. Where I back off on it is when, and I've seen many sessions that were done, where there are deliberate leading questions. And that is where I back up. You need to access these memories and assist them getting to the memories, but certainly don't use the powers of suggestion, because they're in a hypnotic state. They're in a dream state too as well. And they could start to fantasize and dream up things that they will in the future consider being real thoughts.
You must have considered some of your past lives before. Mm-hmm. It must have been a consideration.
Yeah, my past lives, it's really funny. I am never... I love dreams. I love to remember my dreams. I like to go back and redream dreams. I have that ability. I've talked about it a lot. It's one of my favorite things. When I go to bed at night, if I'm not listening to an audio book or research or documentary and fall asleep like that, I will go, okay, I'm going to go do that dream. Okay, let's go. And I am able to just open up the book and do that. So my past life stuff, I'm never a pharaoh, a king, a warrior, a hero, a race car driver, whatever. I'm always a peasant sitting in the mud on the side of the street begging for change, right? I'm like that. I'm never anything, I'm not a Mark Antony, I'm never anything fun. I'm just always the peasant guy.
But do you think with the job that you've got as one of the hosts for Coast to Coast now, with the continuing success of Fade to Black, do you think to have been in that situation, do you think there's something else working with you that is pushing you in that direction?
I do feel that. And that goes back to manifesting your own reality. I do feel, and I bear that responsibility, and I feel that I've been on this uncontrollable journey that seems to be, making its way through. It's like, I'll be honest with you, it's like being shot out of a cannon. And when Fade to Black, I got into, okay, back to manifesting your own reality. I was in the music business. I had a great career. I loved it, producing bands and playing guitar, and great. I could be doing that today and 100% happy. I had found my bliss. In my secret life, my life in the closet was literally a closet full of UFO videos and books and magazines and things and all the conspiracy stuff and all the religions. I studied it, but I never talked about it with my friends or my family. I mean, they knew, once in a while I would, turn them on to something, but basically I kept it to myself. But I was living across the street from Coast to Coast. And that story with the ET that I just told you about, that was across the street from Coast to Coast. So I'm listening, literally, I could walk out on my patio and look at the Coast studios. And so I knew I was going to be there. How I was going to get to Coast, there are 3, 4, 5 people on this planet of 7.5 billion people that host Coast to Coast AM. What are the odds of me becoming one of them? Play the lottery. You're going to win the lottery way before that happens. But I knew that, and suddenly it all pushed in that direction.
Would you be surprised at that event that you don't want to get regressed on actually was something happened there that was like a reprogramming or a changing of destiny or something to push you in the direction to go on Coast?
We'll never know. We will never know. I've had these really extraordinary things that I've seen and witnessed and throughout my life where some of it you remember, some of it you don't, some of it's a partial memory, whether it's a sighting and something's happened really quick and you forget about them as life moves on. Oh, that's right. We did see that back then. I do remember. But how all of these have sort of played out now to be such key significant events where I can go back and talk about them. Now, did any one of these things have something else to it? Yeah, I think about that all the time. Could there have been a download? Could there have been something specific? I don't know.
Just to nudge you.
Just 100%.
Just very briefly, just go over some of the UFO experiences that you've had.
I've had many sightings. Some of them are very detailed and time-consuming with multiple witnesses that, and it takes a lot of time to get into the details. But my first significant sighting I had was in 1995 on the coast of California, right around the time that this little ET guy was there. Are they connected? I don't know. But this was up in Monterey, and I was with a group of friends. We were taking pictures on the beach. I had a little disposable 35 millimeter camera before digital, and somebody says, and I'm taking pictures of my friends in the water, and somebody says, "Hey, whoa, what's that? And I look up to where they were looking, and this black dot is racing across the sky, and at an altitude that was just ridiculous, 60,000 feet, 50,000 feet, way, but it's ripping like big chunks of atmosphere. It's just, woof. And I grab the camera, and as I'm thinking, how can I photograph this, it stopped. I take a picture, and it's at the edge of this cloud, and I'm winding the camera, right? And I look up, and it goes and disappears into the blue sky. It's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Wow, that was weird. Okay, now we're back at the beach. Hey, taking pictures. Like 6 months go by, and I have a handful, like 20 rolls of film that were accumulating in my drawer. Let's go get these pictures developed. Okay, so I go 1 hour photo. Develop the film, and I go back, and now I've got stacks of images, and I'm going through keeper, throw away, keeper. You get the 2 piles going. And picture of a cloud. What's that? Don't remember it. I don't remember it. And I was like, that was that UFO. Whoa, right? And I look, and right there's the cloud, and I see this black dot. It's like smaller than the head of a pin. Can't really see much. I'm a big watch guy. So I've got jeweler's loops and things, and I go get a jeweler's loop, and I put it on the picture, and I look, and it's a black pyramid. 3-sided, And at that moment, there's a knock at my door. Open it up. It's my landlord, Victor. He's like 70. And he goes, "What's wrong?" And I said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Your face is white." And I got this jeweler's loop, and I go, what do you see here? What is this? What the hell is this? What is this? Right? Like, I don't know. How high? So anyway, that was one. Years later, that was 1995, a couple of years ago, I'm with 2 of the guys that I was with on the beach, who are in the music industry, totally unconnected, but they listen to me on Coast and Fade. They've been, History Channel. They've been following all of that stuff. And so we were sitting around. I said, Bobby, do you remember us being on the beach and the thing and the photo and the thing? And he goes, no. I said, yeah, but we were on the beach. It was Monterey, and I'm taking pictures. He goes, yeah. Well, I remember the road trip. And the UFO. And no, I don't. So I turned another friend of mine that's there, Chris. You were there, yes? Do you remember? No, but I got the pic. It was like I'd forgotten it. It had happened that quick. So that was one telltale thing for me, especially back then, with not knowing what I saw, but knowing today what I know about black triangles and things and atmospheres and how things travel. One of the premier Class A sightings of all time, and I've got the negatives, and I've got the original photograph, and once in a while I'll pass it around at dinner with the jeweler's loop, and let everybody have the same reaction to it. It's an amazing photograph. So there's that. My wife and I, again, pretty famous sighting, but my wife and I were here in the valley, and we're coming down out of the mountains. 10:24 at night. There's a reason why I know the time. And we have the sunroof open, and I'm driving down this windy mountain road, and she goes, "What the bleep is that?" And I look at her. This was 2008, 10 years ago. I look at her, and she's looking up, and now I'm on a windy road. I can't take my eyes off the road, but I just kind of quickly look up, and as I look up, through right down the center of everything, down the center of the windshield, is this white ball. And it lasts for about a second. It just goes like this. And it lands which I can see in front of me in downtown Van Nuys, about 5 miles away. And I'm expecting an explosion. It happens like this. I'm expecting an explosion. That's what I thought. I didn't know if it was a missile or what. But it didn't leave a trail, didn't leave any smoke. And so I get on the phone, I call MUFON, call my friend over at MUFON, Wolf McCarran, and I said, dude, just had the sighting, downtown Van Nuys. What are the reports? And he's like, I got nothing. He jumps on the internet. No, I got nothing. I said, it's impossible. It's downtown Van Nuys. 1 million people must have seen this. And that's it. That's all I got. I have nothing more. I still, to this day, I don't know what I saw.
If you were to try to summarize very briefly, what is the UFO phenomena? Is that even the right words we're using for what this phenomena is?
Yeah, I'm fully cognizant of the things that I have seen. Aside from the black triangle, that was a physical thing, and that was photographed. Everything else, save for one sighting that I had up at East Eddy Ranch, I'll share that with you in just a second. Everything else that I have seen has tended to be what appears to be energy, a ball of light. You can call it plasma, whatever you want to call it, but I have seen it repeatedly. I have seen it with multiple witnesses, hundreds of witnesses. I have seen things move and change directions. I've seen things go from the ground floor all the way up into the stars, but there hasn't been a real physical side to these sightings. So I'm not sure what the trend is. Look, we went from covered wagons 100 years ago to electric vehicles today and space probes and things leaving so we have different versions of craft and transportation on this planet. So maybe we're just looking at different models of craft from ET that are visiting here. Maybe it's an upgraded version. Maybe it's their version of the electric car. I don't know, but certainly I've seen the changes.
Do you think the real UFO cases are a bit boring? Do you think, when you talk about plasma and that these are some sort of, whatever they are, energy of some sort, they're the balls of ambient light that follow craft and stuff. Do you think the real UFO, the genuine UFO sightings are rather boring?
No, not at all. I was out on the edge of this cliff, and we had a couple of hundred people with us, and we had this famous sighting that's, it's all over the web and it's videotaped, and you can hear me narrating. I'm in the background on a PA system, so you can hear me yelling and screaming. When you hear this crowd reacting, yelling and screaming and witnessing what they're witnessing, because they know that this is something that is way beyond what should be normal or considered normal. And you're seeing this, and it is the most unnormal, opposite of boring situation. It's an incredible thing. Oh, let me get back to this. So this crowd is yelling and screaming, and they are using very powerful lasers, and they're trying to, track this. And I've got night vision, and I'm looking at it with the binoculars, and I can see the craft, and it's this green thing. But once in a while, every so often, these lasers, because this craft is moving, fairly quickly, and it's going across the sky and it's going up, the lasers would touch it. Right? They're trying to hold it still, but I can see in the night vision, the binoculars, accidentally the laser would cross it, and when it did, it reflected, and I could see it sparkle on the craft. And I saw this probably 30 times. This was a 5-minute sighting. So then I'm thinking to myself, looks like a plasma ball, but this is something physical because these lasers are reflecting off of it. And to watch this go all the way up and turn into a star and then disappear, all on videotape with hundreds of people and their reaction, it's one of the most exciting things that somebody could see.
True. Now, how do we connect consciousness with that? Because do you think sometimes we get lost in looking too much up out there and up there, that's got some answers for us when we're not looking within?
Easiest question to answer. Great question. Easiest question to answer. That experience and the other sightings that we had that day were all done for us. I am convinced that the grouping of honest, fun people with morals and character is sending out that message to the universe. It is going out there to the electronic ether that is connecting all of us, and they're doing a drive-by and winking at us. You know, they're flashing their headlights, you know, the high beams, and saying, hello, it's all good, we are here. And once you go through it like I have, I'm okay with that. I'm really okay to think that the consciousness part of it, it's not about a message coming back to us where we have to consider or ponder or change our beliefs or do better for the planet. That's not the message. The message is, we're here, you're not alone, there's something going on, you're okay, you're not crazy, and that's all we need for our consciousness and belief system.
But getting into this subject, it seems to people nowadays that it leads more and more to the consciousness. If you've never been into consciousness before, it seems that when you get into the UFO subject nowadays, it's a little bit less nuts and bolts and more into the consciousness side of that exploration.
Yes, and I think that we're growing up, we're maturing as a human species, as an earthling. I think that we've been here for a very small sliver of time, and in the big scope of things, Earth is 4.5 billion years old, and we have had electricity for 100 years. Wait a minute, we are very, 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 very young. I think that if we look at us as 5,000 years of development, maybe 10,000 years of development, that right now we're about 21 years old, right? We're getting out of college. We've got our yayas out. We've finished the partying. Now we're ready to settle down, look at life, look at families, and consider why we are here. And that's where the consciousness part has come in. We didn't have concerns about this planet before. We didn't have these concerns about life before, like we have started to consider in these last 20 years. So I think we're there. I really do.
So, where does discernment fit into anything we've spoken about as well? Because that's an important part, isn't it? Because
yes.
Because I tell you why I'm all about this right now, just so that you understand where I'm coming from. It was always a thing for me when doing lots of interviews, right? But I couldn't prove it. I think, I was the talk show host where they were coming on my show. I wanted to give them the freedom to express their stories, even though sometimes it just seemed a bit outlandish, right? Still, this is their truth, right? I believe we create a reality. So if you want to create that reality, let's express it. Let's see, is there anything in there that could help us and see what journey you've been through? But interviewing 70-something channelers on the road and more people than that as well, I've learned that some spiritual teachers do not live by their truth, and for those ones I don't resonate with them anymore. I think the newer generation of people coming on this planet are going to show that they live by their truth, that they would be the only ones I would want to push if I was going to push any in the future. Now I've got to use that lens and put it onto the UFO community, which I'm a big fan of as well. I can't just do it for one, right? I was going to, but just recently I thought, well, that's just not the right thing to do. That's like almost saying, we'll just hide that secret over there.
Right.
So, I would say that some of the people on the bigger platforms in the UFO field are like spiritual teachers in a sense, because it all leads to that. Where's the discernment?
The other big D, right? You have disclosure. To me, I think just as important as the other big D, which is discernment. a discernment that needs to be practiced by both sides of the fence, from the researchers and authors and the speakers and show host like yourself, and the audience, the members of this community that are presented with so many different experiences, ideas, theories on a day-to-day basis. So for me, when it comes to discernment, as a show host, and I recognize how big my audience is and how many people that I'm speaking to, whether it's not only social media or on the air broadcasting.
And just with your size of audience, I mean, let's look at Cayce. What's the size of Cayce's audience? Roughly?
Well, it's it's huge. In a week, I mean, if you aggregate, the short answer is it's 1 million people a night.
And then obviously the ongoing increase in traffic that you're getting to Fade to Black now as well.
Same. It's the number is about half that. So, but then this is the other thing. That's the direct stuff on a day-to-day basis. But the other part of it is the archives, the internet, the social media.
Always going to
networking.
be there. It's always going to be there.
Well, and the reach of the communication that goes on throughout. I do 2 or 3 tweets a day with a reach of 150,000 people. It has nothing to do with the broadcast. So the discernment, I have to choose my words carefully. I have to choose what I research carefully. I have to choose my guest carefully. I have to choose what is presented on social media carefully. I have to choose what I share carefully, what I report on carefully, and it all goes down the line. Why? I have interviewed every aspect of everything, whether it is 9/11, the Gulf of Tonkin, politics, the conspiracy of politics, to spirituality, to channeling, to UFOs, to abductions, to Bigfoot, to cryptozoology, to ghosts and the paranormal. I could go on and on the subcategories from supernatural and paranormal and conspiracy all the way to spiritual awakening and consciousness, and it just goes on and on and on. My audience listens to all of this every single day. So they need to practice the same discernment in their own lives that I do in presenting the material. Or when I interview a guest, I have to be very, very careful. And let me finish this. This is a very important situation. If I did a week of channelers on the show. I did 2 weeks. 2 weeks of channelers. And in doing that, and going from Daniken, who I cherish. I think he's a very special individual. Aside from Bashar, I think he's a very, very special person. But I can go from Daniken all the way down to somebody that is channeling in their living room and posting videos that get 100 views each on YouTube that nobody has ever heard about. And so the audience gets to hear all of these different versions of that. Now, the discernment in that has to be practiced. UFOs. I can go from somebody like Corey Good and David Wilcock to Linda Moulton Howe, Richard Dolan, Tom DeLonge, Peter Levenda, and pick somebody, all the way where all of these views of Greer, right? All of these views are polarizing, different. The experiences are different. Now we're going from somebody like Richard Dolan, who is a nuts and bolts guy, who I've actually had a sighting with, which changed his life. He had never had a sighting. So the audience has to sit there and go, okay, where do I use my judgment here? How free do I let myself go? Do I accept it all? Do I accept bits and pieces of it? And that could be in 1 week on the show. And then if you look at a month on the show, now I've got shows. Now I've got a month's worth of conflicting, direct conflict of ideas and opinions where the audience is left with, wait a minute, church, last night you said you did this, and tonight is this, and I don't know what to... Look, not only do you need to practice your discernment, but keep your ears open. Listen, that's all you have to do.
But where does that discernment happen? I suppose you have to go with logic, and does it feel right? That would be my answer to it.
Okay, so...
Or with what? Can logic come in that? I should do, but...
Yes! Okay, you know where you practice the real discernment? The real discernment is, would you click the share button on social media with this information that you just heard? Would you share it? Or are you now, if you choose, not practicing your discernment, are you sharing what others would consider disinformation? Are you that is a discernment in the internet world today that needs to be practiced a bit more, not so much inside of yourself, but what is it that you are willing to share with other people, because it's going to reflect back on you. Not who you're sharing, not that author, not that researcher, but what is it that you truly inside are willing to share with others.
Is this community split right now, do you think?
100%. It's fragmented all over the place.
And it never used to be like that, did it?
No, it was
Not
always...
as much.
No, I think it was always there, but the ability to further fragment and cause this to go on today, it's easier to do.
Do you think some of that's purposeful?
By who?
I don't know.
Oh, yes. It's happening right now.
So,
it's happening right now.
So it could be charlatans wanting to make some money. And
it could be Washington, D.C.
It could be Washington, D.C.
Absolutely.
It could be mental health issues.
It could be. When we look at, when we take, and I don't care, okay, I'm just going to say that all of this has been public anyway, so here's a gift for you. Let's say we have a situation like Corey Good. Here's Corey, okay? There's Corey Good. Blue Avions, trips to Mars, hanging out with the Mayans, 20 and back, military, all of these different aspects of his story. Okay, there it is, and it sits right there. For some, tough pill to swallow. For most, an even tougher pill to swallow. For a big part of this community right now, they're resonating with it, and they want to hear more. But that's not what's important. What is important is 3 questions with the possibility of a 4th. This is where you use your discernment. Are these implanted memories that he believes to be real? That's 1. 2, did all of this happen and it is real and he's talking about it? Or 3, is it all made up? Is he doing it for a money grab? Is it all one big lie? Now, that's where you sit, and you have to... Each one of those answers... No, Kevin, listen to me. Each one of those answers is really, really bad. Every answer. Implanted memories, MK Ultra, government program, he believes those are real. That's a bad situation to be in for our community, for the world, and for Corey. B, it all really happened, and all of this is really going on, and there's an alien race out there that is enslaving humanity and eating us like Soylent Green. That's a really bad situation. The third one, it's all a lie, and he's pulled the wool over under our eyes. That's a really, really bad situation too.
Yes, it is, because when this community does come to something bigger, and when there is some sort of evidence of even micro life, right, and then the journalists are looking at, well, what community can we go to just to get some answers, and they see all the bollocks that's going on in the separation. I mean, from that perspective, the separation bollocks, right? Which it's not been a nice thing as someone that doesn't do it for money or can sit here and say that, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with making money from it, right? I'm not saying that, right?
No, there's not.
I've just been done it the hard way, and I'm not doing it that way anymore, right? So yeah, I'm changing my perspective on that.
Sure.
Right? Yeah?
Sure. You still need to eat.
Of course. Someone that's not, been doing it, I don't know what's driven me to do it really, just from what you started off really, just the drive to want to, get a truth out there or see where the truth is, right? We're just going to be looked at upon as the crazies when it's so easy to rip this community up right now. But at the same time, yeah, I understand what you're saying about that example there. I wish I knew what to say right now, and I'll look back on this and I'll be like, you should have said that or this, but what can I say about it?
And this journey, when I go and I hear the critics out there are plenty of people that want to take down anybody in this industry, whether it's Corey or Wilcock or Dolan. Dolan went through some horrific things a couple of years ago, and I felt really bad for him. Or Tom DeLonge or Linda, people want to just bring us down and embarrass us. The community has always remained strong and steadfast, as fragmented as it can be. But I go to these conferences, and for those out there that are attacking Corey or whoever, but I go to these conferences, and I round the corner, and I see a line of 1,000 people waiting to get in to hear Corey speak, and you can't go up to them as a critic and tell that. I mean, I'm talking about a huge number of people that are resonating with what he is saying, and you're not going to be able to go up in front of them, and it goes for any buddy that's attending, and tell them, it could be mind control, right? You can tell them that, and they'll go, okay, it could be. It could be he's lying, he's doing it for money. Okay, all right. It could be that this is reality and it happened. Okay, all right. They're cool with all three of the situations. It's fascinating. They understand that the community is so used to it now.
It is. But I always say, okay, for anyone that like Corey or Emery Smith or David as well, where in the information, if you're going to resonate with this, is that information empowering you to become a better person? Where spiritually is it evolving you? Because if all you're doing is regurgitating facts and figures, or it becomes more of a conspiracy, there's never a solution in that kind of stuff. Where is your spiritual soul growth? Where are you? Don't forget that part. It's all great. All this is good entertainment, and it's more than that in some respects. Because I want to say there are spiritual aspects to Corey's work now, yeah, and the rest of them. But if any of that spiritual stuff is missing, I walk away from it.
Right. And when I sit down with any of these researchers and we sit and talk, I would say that the majority of them understand the spiritual side. They have made a connection. They know. You can't be a part of this community and not be affected and touched by the beautiful, warm, awakened souls that make up this community, and you're affected by it. There are a few here that are driven by ego, and I mean very few, that are driven by ego, and spirituality has nothing to do with anything, right? And
I've seen him. I know who you're talking about.
And so I don't let that affect me. Some of those that are out there that are driven by ego and a Twitter account and things, and clicks, also do really good research. And so you have this dichotomy where you're kind of torn between, well, this is really good research. Your last book was really good, but you as a person on the inside are a burnt piece of coal, and I don't know what to do about it.
Are you, as a spiritual teacher and a UFO teacher, which is a spiritual teacher in some respects, living your truth? That's, and I may I don't know. That's just how I feel about it right now. Whether I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just saying this is just where I've got to. And if it's helpful for people to hear what I'm saying, that's just where I'm at. But what happens when you come across people covering stories where they don't want to look at facts, that the people that they're trying to put on the pedestal are actually not the people that they're wanting them to be. They're actually lying.
Right.
Mental health issues.
Yes. I have caught, not intentionally, it just happens in conversation, I have caught some untruths being spoken to me, right? Both in public and private. And when that happens, it's not my job. I'm not judge, jury. I'm just a show host, right? I'm not going to call them out. I'm not going to publicly embarrass somebody. I'm not going to go on the show and do any of that. That's not my job. But what I won't do is continue a relationship. And it's painfully been gone through with me over the years. And I don't want that to happen. But this is what I find amazing, is that the audience in the community is so smart, and they pick up on the slightest things. I have missed things before where I've gotten the emails, dude, wait a minute, they said this, but this, and there's, wow. And so I've had to step back and go, wait a minute here. Okay, there's an untruth being presented. I had somebody come on the show. Okay, I want to make 2 points that need to happen. I had somebody come on the show and say, this was before the show, I've got this document that been released to me by somebody in the CIA, right, and I'm going to release it tonight on the show. And okay, all right, worldwide, okay, all right, let's do this. And later, I found that the document was in a book from 1985. Right, and that it has been out there for the longest time and been talked about. Now, did this person know this in advance or not? Right? Was this person been fooled? Yeah. And why didn't they go through that? And then later I found out that this person had spoken about the document before, and now I have been lied to. I sent an email, and it was not a good email. This, and this, you spoke about it here, this was here, and this is 5 years ago. It was in this book 30 years ago, and you came on the show tonight and you told me before the show it was given to you yesterday by somebody in the CIA, and you're doing it as, I'm not comfortable with that, and if you want to respond and give me your reasons why, fine, but we have to really consider how you're communicating with me in the future. And that's how I deal with it. But then there's the other part. And the other part is this. I have had many people come to me, many, that I'm a shill. I work for the CIA, that I'm under their control, that the reasons for the success of certain things and aspects in my life is because it was given to me, and they have an agenda, and they are using me as a tool, and so forth. Yeah. I've had this over and over again, both about Fade to Black, the name of Fade to Black, and the reason why it's been called Fade to Black, and Coast to Coast, and how this is it's like the craziest crazy talk coming from people that I respect. And when somebody comes to me as somebody that I respect with that, then the discernment hat goes on, the judgment hat goes on, and I know that in my life, how you saw me pull up here today. Did I have any men in black with me? Did I pull up by myself?
Yes, you did.
Have we been alone today?
Yes, we have, brother.
Has there been anything fuzzy, shifty, Have we discussed any of these questions in advance?
No.
Have I told you what I was going to talk about in advance? Have anything weird today?
Nope.
Am I just who I say that I am?
I would say so.
Exactly. Right? And so, and I hear this, and then when I respond to that, they go, "No, you don't understand. You are being..." No, I am not.
But then that must lead on to how, if people do get manipulated by stories, it's very easy for them to get manipulated. Let me just say something here. You know, I like Kerry Cassidy. I've interviewed her just recently. There's an interview on my channel. She's covered some subjects which are fringe. You're a good friend of hers as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she's pushing she has interviewed this chap in prison, Captain Mark Richards, right? And who is going out there to actually try to look at the idea that, well, why is this man in prison, and why is this story gaining so much attention online? When this man apparently has murdered someone, or was part of a coup to murder someone. And what if something came out with evidence to say that was exactly true, and that he's not set up, and that he was part of this? It's just been buried in time. What if information was to be released soon that was the case, yet everyone's going to turn around and say, well, no, it's not the case, it's a setup. You know, mentally, where are we at to think that people are people are imprisoned in that style, that we live in that type of that system? That gets scary.
It does. Carrie's one of the pioneers, certainly through the modern era. She was one of the first YouTubers out there, and
I loved it.
Yep, and she's been a guest at the house, and you know, I
She says she's not allowed on Coast.
No, that's not true. I'll say it right now. I've told her that. I have all the when it comes to Coast, of course, Fade to Black. I have all the freedoms in the world at Coast to Coast. I book who I want. I'm in the studio alone. Nobody ever has said, don't have that guest on again, don't have this guest on, don't do this, run with these questions. I have all that. It's a professional trust and job. And so professionally, they count on me being a professional host and radio host, that I will bring my very best every single night and do that. They don't question anything that I do. So if I, and by the way, I brought up Carrie's situation over there. I said, man, Carrie blacklisted, right? And the answer was, nobody's blacklisted. We don't, no, so do what you want. And so I understand if somebody comes on Coast to Coast and makes a mistake, or says something bad, or makes a bad political move, or says something out of context, or whatever,
of course.
Will they be invited back on the show? That's the producer's decisions, but that's the only reason why. Well, let me finish this. So back to when when Carrie hit me with that, I went to Coast and I said, you know, is she? No. I said, okay, can I have her on as a guest? It's up to you. It's up to you. It's totally up to you. So, and that's where, could I have Carrie on Coast to Coast? I could have her on this weekend. Is it the best show for the audience, and how can we entertain, bring knowledge forward, and have it be an amazing dynamic show? That's what determines what I do, and that's it.
Okay, well, the only person I've come, thank you for that. We're almost at the end here as well. The only person I've ever ousted was a gentleman called that came on pretending he was John Teeter or Tider.
Oh yeah, John Teeter too.
Yeah, and his name, and actually his name was Dane or something. And actually, in the end, I spoke to his son, who explained the whole story to me.
Yes, so it's not tragic
not
story.
over the phone.
Right.
Yeah. But and there's many things online out there. You could say some of those articles aren't real, but there is a history of his doings, and I wouldn't just go out to say. I wouldn't just go out, and say about someone on my show, he's this or he's that. You don't do that. Where's the evidence? That's is this really a misleading case or not, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm looking into Captain Mark Richards because someone came to us, and he showed me a lot of evidence from court systems and everything else that case really happened. That man was part of this group that murdered this chap, and why am I interested in it? Well, he came to me, and I was going to ignore him. Do you know that I didn't want anything? I told him this face to face. I didn't want anything to do with it. But then I thought, hang on a minute. If you're applying this discernment that you've done with the documentary, if someone's going to come to you with the opposing opinion for someone else, you can't just say, oh, I'm not doing that because that's going to land me in a lot of trouble with other people, or I don't want to know because of other reasons. He's come to me, and I said to him, well, why didn't you go to Kerry? And he's like, he has, but she doesn't want to know. And I'm like, well, okay, let's hear your story. And you're going to be surprised.
Well, so what do you do? Okay, so
what do you do with that?
Yeah, this is...
do you ignore it? That's the thing. And I'm saying to myself, I'm not going to ignore it.
Are you an investigative journalist, or are you a show host and a filmmaker? That's okay. So
well, you could ask me that, but then at the same time,
because once you dip your toe,
once
you dip your toe in that water, it is first off, you get into the legal side of things that you are opening yourself up to. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, once you go down that road, now you have to decide, am I an objective show host, or am I a crime buster investigative journalist?
I'm neither of any of those. I think I'm not sure what I am right now, to be honest. I mean, I never start. Was I ever to consider myself a documentary maker? No, but I can point a camera. Right. And my background was at university with television. Doesn't mean much at all. It's just a
it takes a certain
degree.
You have to have a stomach for. You have to. Let me. But this is a very important point. Very important. You have to have the ability to deal with some extraordinary facts and situations that you are about to go down. And when you get into the zone of prison and murder and conspiracy, and the doors that are about to open up behind that, and the reality that you're going to face with that, is that what you're about? Or not. I was part of it. Here in the United States, I broke the Jerry Sandusky story. And the Jerry Sandusky story, when I broke that on a Friday morning, was because I broke the story. It was not on CNN, it was not on ESPN, it wasn't on Fox, it wasn't anywhere on the news because it hasn't been broken yet. This was a story that dealt with pedophilia, child rape, the governor, State College, Pennsylvania, the university. And by Monday morning, I was dealing with, that was on a Friday. By Monday morning, I was dealing with death threats and craziness. And by Tuesday morning, my email is full of witnesses, testimony, people that were raped, children, and I went, wait a minute.
You know what?
I'm a sportscaster. What am I doing dealing with this? Now for the next 3 months, I was a pedophile investigative reporter. And I wasn't equipped for that. I didn't want to deal with that. My thing that I wanted to do on my sports show, I wanted to talk about.
But if we don't cover stories that someone that's a crazy L. Ron Hubbard in prison, obviously, right? You know, that's putting this, or someone from outside prison is going in and feeding this information to give to Kerry, right? Or whatever is going on here. If that's not addressed, then when the fuck are we going to address anything in this community?
That's right. Or do you bring in somebody that you trust that is a journalist and a writer, and bring them in and hand that off to them, and then you do your documentary and you let somebody else deal with as a shield out from you?
I don't know that. I mean, I have to. I mean, why?
That's what I do.
Yeah,
I defer, man. I deflect and defer.
I don't know if I will do. I think I would do the right thing. And if someone's come to me with something and it's adding up, I think, shit, that's looking at. The worst thing is, right? This is another John Titor. That's all this is. This is a crazy guy in prison. I don't know why. Where the discernment's gone out the window here for so many people, right? But it's worth just showing people a reflection to say, listen, as a spiritual teacher, right? You have to live your truth, and if something comes to you that's not true, or it's misinformation from this source, let's just get rid of some of the crap in the field, right? And let's at least let some of the good stuff the rest there. You know, there is so much rubbish out there. I wouldn't do this to anyone else. It's just that there are facts there which say the opposite. Yeah, let's just show the facts. There's not a case to get Kerry or anything like that. I couldn't care about that side of it, right? But just to show that this man is not who he says he is, or at least there is something else there that's going on. If it's not me that's going to do it, no one. Well, no one else. The thing is, I've been like this before, where I wanted people to come on my show because viewing figures. That's not me anymore. Bollocks to it all. Bollocks to the field, to be honest with you. Just at least shine something on it to show, well, think of it. Just where's your discernment, guys? And I know people will say, listen, you're just this, you're that, you know, you're, like you say, some CIA rubbish or whatever they say. No, actually, I was at Contact in the Desert, and I'd done an interview with Kerry, and this guy contacted us. That's the truth. There is no more truth to it than that.
She was at Contact?
No, I was.
Okay,
I just interviewed her before.
I didn't see her this year at Contact.
Yeah. So I don't know what. None of this may end up in any of the interview that we've just done. It may not. But I wanted to put this on camera with you because I want you to know what's going on.
It's I have because, and I don't know how I got here. I don't, but I'm suddenly, you know, it's like a pizza, like a bicycle wheel, where I'm at the center, and these spokes, these slices of pizza go out, you know, and I get all of this information from all different genres coming in from and they all tend to overlap, right? They're all kind of, and I have been fed some pretty sensational stuff, and I sit on it instead of reacting to it or presenting it. I have been given documents and information that has sat on my hard drive for years, where it comes out and somebody wants to comment on it today. Look, we got these secret documents and they're out. I mean, all of this, it doesn't matter. It's all been out, where I have to sit back and go, well, that's been on my hard drive for 2 years. And why didn't I react to it back then? Because A, it was too sensational. B, it pointed fingers at people. Or 3, opened me up to legal stuff. I'd rather have it just sit there. But then what I do get to see is when this stuff does come forward and how people are dealing with it, saying where they got it, who is involved.
Yeah.
That, you know, this comes into play here when I know none of it is true. So now somebody that I have respected, somebody that I've looked up to, I know is full of shit because I've had it sitting here forever. Once in a while, I picked up the phone and go, look, man, I'm gonna take a screenshot for you, and I'll pull up a document and I'll pull up the properties, and they can see the document, they can look at the properties, and they can see how long it's been on my hard drive, right? And I'll screenshot it. Dude, you didn't discover this yesterday. No. Okay, so don't tell me that you did, because you didn't.
And I think what really gets to me is that, when you're trying just to help to awaken people to potentials of ideas, and when people are in this very delicate field where people are hinging on to trying to awaken themselves and to try to see what's true, when people are putting misinformation out there, that's like, for any field, you could have done it in any other field. Why this field? This field does not need that kind of nastiness going on in there, right? It's the worst field when, in the sense of the awakening field and consciousness and ufology, to do that in, but it's riddled with it, right? And I never knew any of this before I started on the game many years ago.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be some, Jerry Springer or this and that, right? I'm just saying, for me, I just can't ignore it, and I don't know why.
I'd rather be Jerry Springer sometimes, to be honest with you.
Than Walter Cronkite, because that's what someone accused me of just recently, actually.
Right.
You're the Jerry Springer of this world, and of this field. I'm like, I'm not.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That there's a lot less responsibility in being Howard Stern than there is with being, the serious.
So that's why I care about this field. I care about people's awakening to at least be some truthfulness, at least somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, that's important.
Well, and I think,
and when you've got stories coming out from this guy in prison that are so, the universe is so unsafe, people are being eaten. He served in Vietnam, did all this, and this is, and people are taking it that what he's saying is true.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my Jesus Christ! I'm like, no. If I'd been the one to interview him and this guy had came my way, do you know what I'd done? No problem, come on the show and we'll talk about it. Yes, it might discredit all my other videos, but come on, and this is your point now. I've got no invested interest to want to shine a light on rubbish.
Right. Well, I think that my audience, I can't speak for yours and I can't speak for others, but I think that my audience is okay with somebody coming on the show and telling me that they were abducted out of their bedroom at night and were taken on a spaceship, and they had sex with 3 Nordic women while flying around Jupiter, looking out the window of the spaceship, looking at Jupiter.
He didn't commit a murder.
Well, hold on. Having a foursome, right? Okay. Now, the audience is listening to that, and they will shift gears and go, okay, we went from an abduction experience to seeing how far this person can push it and still keep it believable and fun, right? They make that, change those gears.
It sounds crazy what you're telling me.
Right. Oh, that I'm telling you really happened on my show.
Yeah.
So the audience, I think, is okay with that. They treat that as just comedy, science fiction, and let's see where they start to trip themselves up, and it goes from being fun and believable to whatever. To the other side, which is the other side where it's so far into the fantastical, like you're talking about. The situation with that, are we dealing with schizophrenia? Are we dealing with somebody that has been locked up in prison for too long and they've let this fantasy go to the point where they don't have any concerns with anything anymore, and they just want to just have fun and tell
But what's
the story.
it do for the credible researchers? What's it do for the credibility of the field? That's the problem.
Yeah, well, and then the danger is what if he's telling the truth? And what is it up to us to censor or to say what one person is telling the truth and which one is not?
Well, let's
I don't know.
Well, let's at least know the guy's background. We're being told that he's innocent, that he never did these things.
Right.
Let's at least be adult about it and show that there is a background to this person.
Right.
And let's make a mind up from that perspective.
Right. So like I said, it's so hard I've made a conscious decision.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I've made a conscious decision not to be judge and juror. I don't paint my guest into a corner. I don't want to do that
neither. And I'm not going to do that neither. I'm not out to get Kerry. I'm just out to say that this is what's come to me. This is this guy's background. I would say the same if we were not filming right now. I'd say the same if you was not here and I was with my brother, right? This is my point of it. It's just to show that side of it.
Right. And then you have to ask yourself, is there something that Carrie knows that's keeping her driven into this story that she hasn't presented publicly because she can't, and that she is convinced that this story needs to be out there and presented? She has certainly driven it home, man, a lot, and she's driven up to that prison many, many times, and what is the motivation behind that for her? I don't think it's clicks. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's money. I don't think it's that. Is there something else that she knows? I don't know. I don't know.
Good questions. Good questions.
I mean, I really, when this is the thing, is when somebody, including myself, talks about some little gray alien showing up in your bedroom in the middle of the night, and then this thing disappears, and you go and you tell this story, like I have publicly, and you go and you share that story, and somebody wants to come at me and say, you're out of your mind.
But that's a bit more of a credible story than what we're talking.
What I don't see.
That was your personal experience. Yours is a personal experience.
That's right. So minus his background, if you didn't know his background, right? But he's just telling the story. What's the difference between my experience in my bedroom and aliens eating humans out there in the solar system? What's the difference? The difference is none.
Because in the murder case, he had created this cult likeness, and he had created this type of fantasy in the murder case. That's the difference.
Right.
That's what you don't know.
Right. Yeah. It's I've looked into it over the years a lot.
Yeah, but you've not seen the evidence. Some of the evidence I have when I went to see this guy. And it was surprising. I did, because we're dealing with 1982, and a lot of those records aren't not available very easy.
Right.
And the records I saw from the court case, and the fantasy that he'd created to lead these young guys to kill this man, it's the same fantasy he's creating in prison right now.
Right. But when I looked at the facts of the case, the best that I could, I just thought to myself, this guy's just schizophrenic. He's just completely.
But then why not?
Loony.
Why not really? Yeah, but if you know that if there is a background to the looniness, there is evidence and court cases of what happened, that should be presented to the public, to our community. That family. You gotta understand, the guy that he killed. That family knows nothing of the UFO community making a joke about his murder.
Right.
That's what they've basically done. That's what's been peddled here. The joke of this man's murder, that it never happened.
Right.
The joke that he was a paedophile.
Right.
The joke that he deserved it, basically.
Right.
Yeah, and that this guy wasn't even there, that he was on a secret space mission. That should just be brought to light so that we can...
But why? Can I ask you why? Because the Richards story in the UFO community, 99.999% of the UFO community don't know the story. Never heard the story.
Well,
nobody knows the story. You know who knows the story?
Who?
The Carrie Cassidy bubble. And that outside of that, nobody knows the story. Look, I've done a 1,000 interviews. I have done.
Well, maybe
I don't know how many
know.
hours and minutes of shows.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But I can say this. Out of the thousands of callers that have called in, out of the tens of thousands of people that I've interacted with in conferences, do you know how many people have asked me about Captain Richards? Zero.
Yeah. That's a fair point.
None.
Yeah.
None. And I've had the most obscure cases that people talk about that are
I guess what it is that people don't, and there are people that don't want to look at this subject or look at that, or even just that as a case example. They don't want to look at that because they want to stay away from it. And I can understand why. I totally get it. Why, from all the reasons you've said it, and it makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah, when Carrie wanted to talk to me about the case, and she wanted me to do this, right? And talk about it. I never, as I looked at it, I dismissed it. I thought this is just, somebody that's schizophrenic, number one. Number two, there isn't anything there for me that has the credibility side on it. For me, I just didn't, I never resonate. I didn't want to go to page 2.
And I don't want to, and I don't want to keep you too much. You've got to get going soon as well, right? We'll end it here, right? But no, absolutely. For you didn't even want to go to page 2. But I think because this community is so small, and it is really, you get out of the contact in the desert, and it's a smaller community where even the spiritual community is, right? So, but when you see something that's not quite right, I'm still going to say it. It should be brought to light, and it shouldn't be ignored by everyone else. And everyone's got their reasons for not wanting to cover it, and I totally respect that. But if it's going to come to my doorstep, and it's provable like this is, right? Oh, come on, man. Let's just let's show it. Let's try to do the right thing. If I'm doing the right thing or not. Maybe I'll look back and I'll be like, nah, you know what? You should have just walked away from that.
Yeah, man.
That's just me.
It's an interesting case. It is. I don't know why.
It just makes me think: how many more cases like that are there out there? That if we didn't have the mental instability, we didn't have the prison, that we would never look at, because you say, he's saying it, so that's his truth. But how many other versions of this, in ways that you couldn't disprove it, are going on right now in this community?
Yeah. Well, and so. And we'll end it with this. When you look at some real situations in pop culture, in our society, that have happened, like Ted Kaczynski, you look at a situation where MK Ultra participation was real, right? That there was no doubt about that 100%. At all. CIA mind control, and other, not to waste minutes on this, but other situations of mind control and MK Ultra that were in play, that are not only documented and factual, but ones that were covered by the mass media in the news, but nobody knows about the MK Ultra aspect of it. That part of it, to me, is completely fascinating. So when we look at this guy, Richards, Captain Richards, when you look at his story, how many more of them, not specific about what his case is,
nope.
and murder and schizophrenia and all of that. No, I'm talking about how many other versions of him are out there.
Right.
And that's really fascinating to me. There are, when I look at this and I peel back these onion layers,
that's why I'm covering it.
You could be MK Ultra.
I could be. I could be.
I could be.
But then at least I try to come from love and light from MK Ultra.
Well, see, but that trigger word's going to happen, and you're going to take everybody out.
That we're coming through there. Yeah. It's like the maturity. Brother, thank you so much.